cannot stop corruption. Nobody can stop corruption unless you overturn government completely.
Bakit nga ba naghirap ang Pilipinas? Bakit ganito ang nangyayari sa ating bansa? Maraming nagugutom, maraming naghihirap. Sa paglipas ng panahon, bakit ang bagal ng pag-unlad ng bayan? Bakit ang bagal ng sistema ng ating bansa? Bakit nga ba? Korupsyon. Ito ang punot dulo ng patuloy na paghihirap ng maraming Pilipino sa ating bansa. Kailangan nating sugpuin ito. Ang mayayaman ay lalong yumayaman, habang ang mahihirap ay lalong humihirap. Edukasyon ay hindi natatamo dahil sa patuloy na kahirapan. Kahit pagkain na hindi nabibili, kaya ang karamihan ay kumakapit sa patalim. Nakukulong dahil sa patuloy ng kahirapan. Korupsyon. Kailangan nating sugpuin ito. Ang kabataan ay ang pag-asa ng ating bayan. Kahit habang may buhay pa tayo, kumilos tayo. Magkaisa para sugpuin ang punot dulo ng lahat ng problema ng Pilipino. Korupsyon. Tayo'y magtulungan, magmahalan, magbigayan, at sugpuin ang kalaman.
Korupsyon.
Corruption. Corruption is the abuse of power or position for personal gain. There are many forms of corruption, including bribery, embezzlement, and extortion. For example, a purchasing agent for a company might take a bribe from a supplier. In return, the purchasing agent will pay more than the usual price for the goods. The supplier and the agent pocket the extra money at the expense of the company. Or, for instance, in the case of political corruption, government officials might use their positions to extort payments from a company that the government regulates. Indeed, economic corruption impedes growth. And political corruption undermines good governance. Unfortunately, both forms of corruption are still widespread across the world.
How does corruption affect you?
And the cost of corruption can be enormous. Corruption can cost you your livelihood, your rights, your health, your freedom, and sometimes even your life. It erodes democratic freedoms, rule of law, and trust in government. Corruption also reduces your chances for a healthy environment and sustainable future. When money meant to tackle the climate crisis is stolen, that's your future being taken from you. When money meant to improve your local schools, hospitals, and roads is snatched away, opportunities for a better life are lost with it. When money meant to improve your government and the rule of law is stolen, so too is your chance for a more just and secure future. Every year we lose billions to corruption, billions that were supposed to improve all of our lives, our opportunities, and our communities. At times, the scale of the problem can seem overwhelming, but corruption is not inevitable. Together, we have the power to stop corruption.
Philippine National Police, the Philippines' most corrupt agency. In July 2013, the Philippine National Police was ranked as the most corrupt institution in the Philippines, according to a survey by the Global Corruption Barometer of the anti-corruption watchdog Transparency International. Alexis Romero wrote in the Philippine Star, the survey showed that 69% of surveyed Filipinos believe police personnel were corrupt. 64% believe public officials and civil servants were affected by corruption, while 58% had the same view on political parties. The media and religious institutions were perceived to be the least affected by corruption with 14% and 15% respectively. The military deemed corrupt by 43% of the respondents. The Global Corruption Barometer has been gathering the corruption views and experiences of people around the world since 2003. This year's survey covered more than 114,000 respondents in 107 countries. Armed Forces Public Affairs Chief Lieutenant Colonel Ramon Zagala assured the public that efforts are underway to make the military less vulnerable to corruption. Zagala said reforms are continuous and the survey is a manifestation of the things we need to do to improve the people's perception of us. The PNP has yet to issue a statement on the results of the survey. We are not yet competent to answer that report. We still have to look at the report. Senior Superintendent Reuben Chudor Sindak, PNP Public Information Office Chief, said, Sindak promised members of the media that an official statement of the PNP would be issued at 3 p.m. yesterday, but no statement has been issued as of press time. Low salaries are named as the main cause of police corruption. Joel D. Adriano wrote in the Asia Times, salaries of cops are not commensurate to the risk they face. A low-ranking police officer makes only 12,500 pesos a month, and approximately 60% of the police force are estimated to live below the poverty line. Many live in squatter settlements and cannot afford to send their children to school, according to a recent study by the University of the Philippines and the Corps Foundation. Half the police officers they surveyed said that they have no bank savings. Lean economics leaves members of the police force vulnerable to corruption, bribery, and criminal activities, according to Pacific Strategies and Assessments, a global consulting firm.
Arroyo's husband arrested on bribery surge on his role in the ZTE case. In March 2012, Mike Arroyo, the husband of former Philippine President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, was arrested on charge that he received millions of dollars in bribes to push through a overpriced 330 million contract with the Chinese telecom supplier ZTE while Arroyo was in office. Associate Press reported Jose Miguel Mike Arroyo, who was seen as a backroom operator during his wife's troubled 9 years in office, later posted bail to avoid detention. He was indicted on the bribery charge in December 2012. He is accused of accepting money to push through a 330 million government contract with the Chinese telecommunication of company ZTE Corporation to set up a nation broadband network in 2007. The contract was originally priced at 130 million. His wife approved the deal but later backtracked under public pressure and a congressional investigation that found the contract was vastly overpriced. Mike Arroyo was denied wrongdoing and says the bribery charges are a flaw because the former president canceled the deal. His wife, who left office in 2010, faced the same charge as her husband and more. She has pleaded innocent to the electoral fraud charge but is detention at a military hospital as she awaits trial. A former election chief, Benjamin Abalos, and the former transport secretary, Leandro Mendoza, also searched over the ZTE contract, and the court ordered their arrest on Tuesday. They previously testified in the Senate hearing and denied receiving millions of dollars in kickbacks. Mendoza posted bail while Abalos is under arrest in the same electoral fraud surge as the former president. Former Economic Planning Secretary Romulo Neri testified that testified that Abalos offered him a bribe to approve the ZTE contract. Jose de Venecia III, a losing bidder with a connection to the Arroyo's inner circle, testified that ex-President Asban was promised a 70 million commission. Arroyos had prevented top official, including Neri, from continuing to testify in the congressional injury under her successor, President Benigno Aquino III. The Philippines Ombudsman investigate and failed search as the Anti-Corruption Court, which issued the arrest warrant. If convicted, they face a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. Aquino blames his predecessor for corruption and say he wants to clean up the government, starting with the prosecution of the Arroyos and their allies. The former first couple accused Aquino of pursuing a political vendetta. Rodolfo Lozada said he has no direct evidence or information that would link the president's husband to the broadband deal, but he did remember having a dinner with Abalos and representatives from ZTE Corporation at a hotel in Manila.
ZTE kickback scandal in Philippines. Zhongxing Telecommunications Equipment or ZTE, a Chinese state-linked manufacturing giant that sells communications gear in more than 140 countries, allegedly paid tens of millions of dollars in kickbacks in connection with a 2007 contract. Among those charged in connection with the case were former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, her husband, and two other former senior officials. Andrew Higgins wrote in the Washington Post, among those charged with graft is Benjamin Abalos Sr., the former head of the Election Commission. According to testimony during hearings by the Philippine Senate, Abalos took large kickbacks from ZTE in connection with a contract for the construction of a broadband network and fed some $30 million into the campaign coffers of Philippine politicians ahead of a 2007 election. His Manila attorney Gabby Villarreal said Abalos categorically denies receiving any money from ZTE. Claims that he did, the attorney said, are just hearsay. ZTE, which has early 90,000 employees and last year ranked as the world's fourth biggest maker of mobile phones, has issued shares on stock markets in Hong Kong and nearby Shenzhen. It denies being state-controlled and describes itself as an independent company. Its biggest shareholder, however, is a state-dominated entity, as are at least 7 of its other 10 largest shareholders. ZTE won its 2007 broadband network contract in the Philippines after China's then Commerce Minister Bo Xilai helped arrange a low-interest loan from a Chinese state bank to finance the deal, which was subsequently cancelled. ZTE did not address specific allegations raised in the Philippines, but said that abiding by Chinese and local laws is a basic principle that ZTE has always followed. When rumors of ZTE kickbacks began to surface and triggered a political storm in the Philippines, the U.S. Embassy in Manila in 2008 sent a cable to Washington reporting that the ZTE case is typical of the deals that China reportedly uses worldwide to make friends and buy influence, unlike institutions such as the World Bank, according to the cable, which was later made public by WikiLeaks. China does not link its aid to issues such as good governance, rule of law, or respect for human rights. Public skepticism and scrutiny have underlined shortcomings in China's soft power efforts. A witness list drawn up recently for the trial here at a special anti-graft court known as Sandigang Bayan includes 2 Chinese executives involved in the since aborted ZTE contract for a broadband network to link government offices. ZTE's head office in Shenzhen said neither person now works for the company but declined to say when they left or why. The ZTE affair has attracted a lot of attention thanks to intense media interest after Senate hearings that featured detailed testimony of illicit payments. Jose de Venecia, a businesswoman who first blew the whistle on alleged kickbacks, said in an interview that his own company, Amsterdam Holdings, had proposed building a broadband network linking government offices in 2006 and offered to do it for $130 million. ZTE later proposed doing the same for $329 million and get the contract. I put 2 and 2 together. They were overpricing to pay so-called advances, said De Venecia, recalling a December 2006 meeting he attended with ZTE executives and the then head of the Philippine Election Commission in Shenzhen. The meeting, he said, revolved around discussion of kickbacks. De Venecia, whose father served for more than a decade as Speaker of the Philippine House of Representatives and had close ties with Chinese leaders, puts most of the blame for the broadband fiasco on officials in Manila, saying that China merely got sucked into local shenanigans by its determinations to win the contract. Officials here were trying to extort money from ZTE. Unfortunately, ZTE was willing to participate. De Venecia said, ZTE is a company we will all remember.
Dozens of Filipino politicians caught in $229 million graft scandal. In May 2014, Trevor Moss wrote in the Wall Street Journal, a growing corruption scandal entangled the sweats of Manila's political elite as dozens of politicians were accused of being linked to the theft of $229 million in Philippines taxpayer money. The scandal centers on Janet Lim Napoles, a businesswoman who says she was part of a scheme in which the daming non-governmental organizations were formed between 2004 and 2010 to siphon off $229 million for herself and her accomplices. Manuel Morgato of Reuters wrote, Filipinos were shocked by media accounts of the opulent lifestyle of the woman who is suspected of running a massive kickback scheme for lawmakers. Janet Lim Napoles, the wife of a former Marine major, has been accused by the Department of Justice of setting up fake non-government organization that since 2007 received lawmakers' pork barrel funds and then routed the money back to them. The whistleblower, a former associate of Napoles, testified to the Senate in a public hearing that the businesswoman received so much cash that she would stash it in the bathtub of her luxury Mandala home. Before her arrest, Napoles denied involvement in the scheme and said her wealth came from her family's investments in coal mining in Indonesia. Napoles said she had given money to 120 current and former lawmakers, far more than the 8 already facing charges over the affair. A list of alleged accomplices was released by the Senate committee investigating the matter, prompting declarations of innocence across the board, including from Secretary for Budget and Management Lorenzo Abad. One of 2 serving cabinet members named Ms. Napoles' lawyer said his client is not maintaining her innocence, but she is saying that she did not envision it, that it was already there when she came into play. Ms. Napoles says the scheme depended on discretionary pork barrel funds that legislators receive for district projects. The Justice Department charges that the accused pocketed the funds after having assigned them to be fabricated NGOs. The scandal first came to light in July after a whistleblower told the Justice Department that he had served as a bagman in transactions between politicians Ms. Napoles and others. Until Ms. Napoles' latest revelations, The pork barrel case had focused on three senators, Juan Ponce Enrile, the Senate Minority Leader Jinggoy Estrada, and the son of former President Joseph Estrada, and Ramon Revilla Jr., who has declared himself a candidate for president in 2016. In September 2013, the Justice Department filed charges with the ombudsman against the three men, as well as 5 House members and 30 other individuals, including Ms. Napoles. All those accused except Ms. Napoles have denied any wrongdoing. The three senators are all prominent members of the opposition and have claimed that the charges against them are politically motivated. The ombudsman says last month it had found probable cause against the three senators and said proceedings against them would soon begin at the anti-corruption court.